Coming to the second part of our presentation, while we noted the major definitions of public policy, for knowing what is this field, its nature also needs to be appreciated. You need to understand what is the nature of public policy. It is like goalpost for the governments, and it aims, here are that is, we need to understand various activities of government. In so far as public policy is concerned, these activities can be looked at from two dimensions: activities based on definite policies, activities that are not based on, say, particular policy as such there. But if you look at reality, perhaps this difference gets blurred and policies are not so definite as such there. So, if you examine from the nature there, what are the different forms that policy takes in its sweep is a question here. So, they may be in the form of legislations or laws or order or a regulation. The legislations there, RTI, right to information, is a kind of a legislation that guides most policies in the sense that how they should set their systems in place there, so that people can access information there. Policies flow from that. What do we understand from all this? Public policies cover a major portion of the activities of the government and consistent with a development policy. If you take a particular sector there, you can always look at education policy, health policies in India, which are commonly seen from the stakeholders' point of view: students, parents, teachers, governments, international competition, and as a context, internationalization of education there. Similarly, challenges to nation's health there. What are the various issues here? So, the nature of policies may be general or specific, broad or narrow, simple or complex, sometimes even public or private, sometimes written or unwritten, explicit or implicit, discretionary or detailed, qualitative or quantitative. General, specifically, if you look at the general policies like the frequent mention of GST, it has a general context as such there. If you look at broad or narrow, corporate tax only, it has only limited context there. Simple or complex, if you look at every budget, sometimes the income tax interventions are so confusing to most of us. Of course, over a period of time, governments tried to simplify it, and many are also complex in the sense forex reserves. If you see it, it's difficult to understand how these reserves are maintained and how international rupee value vis-a-vis the dollar complex, public or private. Insofar as corporate social responsibility, like the private, it is largely left to the private sector to define it. If it is public policy there, the same corporate social responsibility has a definite focus as such there, written or unwritten there. You must be observing that, the major function of the state is to control law and order, and most of these are only on unwritten instructions like number of festivals that go. Even the private festivals need to be regulated by public there. So, what kind of policy can we define here there? So, we can also say discretionary or detailed. Number of policies, although very well mentioned there, the state exercises discretion selectively, and these are not available or in a detailed discussion as such there. Qualitative or quantitative is one thing where the decision or the policy for right to education is quantitatively, that means there is a large number of children are expected to be covered by that. But there is a committee which also says that, say, in our hurry to increase what is called supply side of education, we forgot a demand side of education. That means that the quality in education is not given very serious attention, is what number of studies are showing. Like that, in addition to this, in a federal context like India, policies differ from central to state and local levels there. Policies also differ from state to state and local levels as such there. There is only one constitution, but states enjoy some kind of an autonomy, where some states depend heavily on excise revenue, prohibition and excise. In some states, there is a ban on alcohol consumption. So, all put together, you have different approaches to analyze this. Scholars in policy take note of this particular approach, I mean the nature, from the point of view of policy making and decision making, policies and goals, policy making and planning, policy analysis and advocacy, in the sense that, say, advocacy, that you expect population over a period of time to change, and it is advocated through the state agencies also there. For instance, discouraging people from smoking is one such, where state advocates through advertisements there. And there is also an effort at making a comparison of policies, whether it is between state and center. Sometimes best policies in a state are benchmarked to be adopted by the center to be followed by other states as such there. You must understand that over a period of time, power and monopoly of policy there, for instance, where the constitutionally speaking, the power is concentrated in certain levels of governance there. There the policy making needs to be discussed in a totally different context there. Therefore, we can look at it policy as a goal oriented and also result oriented statement there. So, if you see it, the government often tells through budget as a policy of mopping up resources, says that, say, it has fixed up 30% more for the next year there as a goal. So, spelling out strategy and purposive actions to attain the objectives of the government with ultimate aim of promotion of public interest there. Throughout the debate and discussion in public policy, what stays strong is what is public interest there. This needs to be established when challenged in a court of law under what is called public interest there. Policies are expected to have futuristic orientation as such there, directed towards future, which may not be immediate, but only long term there. You must be knowing, you see, how the union and state governments are encouraging growth of plants across the country. The objective is to promote mass tree plantation. Why? This is aimed at creating a green belt as such there for purposes of protection of environment and to what is called controlling the impact of climate change there. That is how the futuristic orientation, all environmental policies need to be seen from this perspective. It has a sanction of law and authority behind it, legally. Sometimes coercion is also used for bringing in goals of achievement of goals of policies there. For instance, those who break the law as far as prohibition is concerned, how they are handled there, wherever it is applicable. The quality of public policy therefore makes a distinct form, and the policy of a private organization, this can't be compared as such there, but even private has a policy of reaching out a particular goal in terms of profit and also in terms of increasing the sales there. And more number of private organizations are inclining towards greater good of the people there. Let's now sum up this aspect like it's a dynamic process in the sense that it is continuously formulated and reformulated in response to the requirements of the intended target groups and also the environment and time there.